I'm going to read you something I find to be a bit weird, right? The Home Office have put this out as a tweet now that they've appointed a man by the name of Martin Hewitt, CBE, QPM, to be the Border Security Commander. He says, "I'm honoured and excited to lead this new and groundbreaking command. I'm under no illusions as to the challenges that lie ahead, but I'm determined we will face them head on." I mean, I can understand him being honoured. Excited seems an odd choice of words, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. However good you are at such a job and whatever your potential, I would say it's an intimidating challenge that he's got, but one that maybe he's looking forward to gripping with or grappling with. But that I have said throughout this process that I hope that the Home Office and the government don't appoint a senior police officer, but that I suspected they would do. They have done. And the reason I've said that, Mike, is because the problem of migration, legal, illegal, of asylum, of all of these things, is comprised of a massive range of complex and interacting factors.
Yes.
It's diplomatic, it's economic, it's military, there are so many factors that come into this. And police officers have understandably, and this isn't a criticism, senior police officers who've spent their whole career embedded in a policing culture are inevitably going to be institutionally blinkered and shaped, and their attitudes are going to be shaped and their responses shaped by their experiences in policing. Now, that's not to say that they can't do the job, but in 14 countries that I've helped to sort out national level strategic border challenges, such as the small boats, and Keir Starmer's going to Italy to talk to them and seek their advice. Well, I was asked by the Italians how to stop the boats that were coming over from Albania. I'm just down the road from the Prime Minister, so maybe he could ask me. But anyway, the thing is that you've got to bring, in those 14 countries, only one country was I able to persuade one country I was unable to persuade them to appoint a chief of police. So all the other 13 countries, they appointed somebody else, according to my advice. In those 13 countries, they succeeded. In the one country where they appointed a police officer, they didn't. Because all of the other different agencies, Foreign Ministry, Treasury, their equivalents, intelligence and so on, all belonging to different government departments, all thought, well, why do we have to talk to a police officer? We need to be talking, we've got our own ministers, our own departmental heads, our own this, that and the other. You've got to have somebody at the national level who is not intimately associated with any particular institutional culture, because you will have problems trying to do what you want to do.
No.
But anyway,
if you were appointed to the job, Henry, in this case, in this country, what would you do first? What should this guy do today in his first job, first day?
Well, the first thing he needs to do is go and meet with all of the heads of the various different departments separately. Different departments, so you're talking Home Office, you're talking Ag and Fisheries, you're talking Foreign Office, you're talking Ministry of Defence, you're talking the Security Service, the Secret Intelligence Service. You're talking about 18 different agencies by my calculation in the UK. Go and meet them and say, right, this is what I want to do. I want to conduct an on-the-ground, with your teams, assessment of what's actually happening on the ground on our borders, not further. Then I want to bring in that assessment will be a joint assessment. We look at the risks, we look at the threats, we look at the resources we've got and where we've got them and how they're being employed. And then we look at the threats. Then we've got to sort of... but that's multidimensional, Mike. This is where it is complicated, because as I've also always said, you've got to deal with the push factors, why people are leaving the large number of countries that they do leave. You've got to look at why the UK is attractive to them. Now, that's not a policing issue, why we're attractive. That's benefits, that's hotels, that's the job opportunities in the black economy and all of that. And you've got to look at all the ways that people move and how that movement is facilitated and encouraged. Now, that's a huge amount of piece of work. So you've got to bring those teams together. A national working group needs to be established under the chairmanship of what I would have called the National Borders Coordinator. That working group then looks at each one of the various aspects that I've just listed and more, and starts to build a picture of what's happening and then the responses to it. And that body then, and whoever it is, needs to respond, report, not to the Home Secretary, but to the cabinet. Because it's the cabinet that has to pull this together. Because of all those different
surely
parts.
you would hope that the Starmer administration, for what it's worth, would have a strategy. Though they don't seem to have one. I mean, all we see from Starmer is that he mouths the words, "We're going to smash the gangs," but he doesn't appear to have any kind of strategy as to how to do that.
He hasn't. And actually, one of the tasks in the job description for this individual, for Mr. Hewitt, is to develop a national strategy for borders, and he's got no experience in doing that. I'm quite happy, you know, I'll be contacting him to offer my help.
But he's already been described as a man who's a very nice bloke, but doesn't get things done very well.
Well, I suspect that's going to be what's happening, and what this signals to me, Mike, is that the government doesn't get the need for such a comprehensive strategy. The government thinks that this is about organised crime, and that's it. And therefore, a police officer fits the bill. Well, that's very simplistic thinking, and they are going to fail if that's indeed the way they approach it, and if indeed that's the way that Mr. Hewitt approaches it. Because that is just one piece, albeit an important piece, of the overall puzzle. You know, we hear that the government is now looking at talking to Albania about sending people there instead of the Conservative government's plan to send them to Rwanda. Yeah. They're struggling. They don't know what to do with this. And I'm afraid appointing a police officer, I wish him well. I absolutely do. We need to solve this, and I hope he succeeds. But I think appointing a police officer, it's not his fault, but it indicates that the government doesn't get the complexity and the breadth of this problem and therefore won't succeed in dealing with it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Henry Bolton, thank you very much indeed, international border expert.